What's up everyone, my name is Nunu and welcome to Beginner's Guide to Sim Racing Episode 2. In Episode 1 we covered what wheels you want to start out with, what gear you want to get if you're a beginner. In this episode we will be covering what games you should start with, what games you can get into whenever you get more advanced sim racers. So if you want to know more about games and where to start, I reckon that you watch this video. So, first of all, we have the arcade games. These are the kind of games you play for fun. They're not really supposed to be very realistic in terms of physics. They look absolutely amazing. They're really fun to play, but in terms of physics, they are not realistic. This is the kind of games like Forza Horizon 4, Need for Speed, and The Crew 2, as I said. They might not be too realistic in terms of physics, but they have great gameplay, and they are great fun to play. So if you want to have some fun, I reckon you buy these. I have some of them. Of course, you need a bit of different stuff, but they are really, really fun to play. But that is not sim racing games, but what we call arcade games. Then we have what we call the simcade games, which you might be able to figure out is between a simulator and an arcade game. These are games like the F1 games from Codemasters, Project Cars 2 and GT Sport, stuff that are also kind of gameplay oriented, not completely physics and simulator oriented. These have nice gameplay. F1 has an absolutely great career mode, Project Cars 2 has some nice cars and all that jazz, and also GT Sport's a nice game. But they are not 100% trying to go for the most realistic physics. These are very, very good places to start getting in with sim racing, because they have great gameplay. They get you initiated and happy, and then you should be ready to go. They're a really, really nice game, and this is what we call the simcades. Then last up we have The Sims. I know, right? The game where you play with people. No, this is something else. We have The Sims. These are the sim racing games. These are the games that go into precisely measuring, tire wear, how the car behaves, how the suspension behaves, and try to get it as accurate as real life. This is also where real life racing drivers often train, and this is where you get the most realistic experience. It might not be the best gameplay, but you'll get a realistic experience with these things, whether it's time model or whether it is driving the car. These are the games like iRacing, Assetto Corsa, and R Factor. They're all really realistic sims. They're all focusing on just getting the realism right in terms of the curbs and the suspension and the cars, and they're absolutely great. So if you really want to get into more high, like endurance racing, maybe high level racing, hard, it is to be said that sim racing games are hard. You might want to get into some sim racing. Now we are going to be talking about what games I recommend for you if you're a beginner or if you are more advanced. We're going to be talking about a bit more into what games has what qualities and what negativities, and we're just going to be starting from one end with Project Cars 2. This is a very good game for beginners, in my opinion. It has a really good gameplay, it has a good career mode. The physics, not completely accurate in my opinion. They could maybe have focused a bit more on that, in my opinion, but it is a really nice game. The community is still online, as again the physics maybe feel a little bit floaty in Project Cars 2, but you have an insane amount of cars and an insane amount of tracks. I believe it is around 60 tracks and 180 cars that you can drive in a Project Cars 2. So there's great amounts of content, great amounts of different stuff that you can try out in this game. Next up we have the F1 games, mostly talking about F1 2019, which is the newest installation of the M1 games. First of all, these games look absolutely beautiful, as you can see here. They're developed by Codemasters and they feel quite good in my opinion. There is amazing career mode, amazing gameplay. It's a really good starter off, of course, as the same Project Cars 2, €60, and it's an amazing game. And I recommend, if you want to get into racing, I recommend that you try out the F1 games, because they are amazing. They basically simulate real life F1. If you do career mode, you can do online. Online is maybe not so nice. Career mode, their career mode is absolutely amazing, and the game looks amazing as well. Assetto Corsa. probably the best value for money that you can get on the market. This game costs 20 freaking euro. That is really, really cheap. And for what you get, it's basically a steal. So, it's 20 euro. You get, it's an amazing game. It's just so good, Assetto Corsa. I would call it a sim. It goes into physics. It has nice physics. The graphics are alright, but the menus might be a little bit hard to learn at the start. I haven't played this game too much, but I've started learning the menus and stuff. But what I've played, I think it is absolutely amazing. I probably need to get it to play some more. Of course, we're talking about Assetto Corsa and not Assetto Corsa Competizione. This game is amazing. You can download all the mods you want from the internet, and you can download a lot of them for free, so you can have pretty much any car and any track you want. Assetto Corsa Competizione is a completely different deal than Assetto Corsa. This game costs 60 euros, so 3 times as much as Assetto Corsa. This game mainly focuses on the Blancpain GC series. You have limited amount of cars, limited amount of tracks, but it is a nice game. It has nice physics. It has a really active player base at the moment, but it only has the cars and the tracks in game, and the cars that you have are nice to drive. They're GT cars. They're from the Blancpain GT series. So it's a really nice game. It has a nice community. It has great graphics, which has also been known for with ray tracing and having some really insanely realistic footage, insanely realistic graphics, which is really a big highlight of this one. But I would honestly recommend, if you're just new, I'd recommend going with Assetto Corsa in the start. If there are games recommended for beginners, there also has to be games that aren't recommended for beginners. In front of your eyes, you're seeing footage of me playing iRacing from one of my videos, and that is exactly what we're going to be starting out with, iRacing. I would absolutely nowhere close to recommend this game for beginners, because first of all, this is, in my opinion, probably the beastiest sim. It's most realistic sim. It's been there since 2008. You can of course have other opinions on that. It is really hard, and not only that, it is extremely expensive. I would only recommend getting into iRacing if you have some previous history, because everyone is here racing for their license, racing for clean racing, racing for all that kind of jazz. So I recommend stay away from iRacing until you get a bit more skill, until you get a bit more focus, and until you know that you want this, because it is a subscription based software, and it costs a lot. On top of that, you need to purchase tracks and cars, so stay away from iRacing if you are a beginner. R-Factor 2 is another game I would recommend staying a long way away from if you are a beginner. R-Factor 2 has an absolutely amazing tire model. It feels really nice to drive, but it is just such a hard game to get into. It is 30 euros, so not that expensive. It's really cheap, but it's really hard to get into league racing. Be fast at it. The community is maybe not extremely. There is a lot of community races. There's a lot of endurance races and all that, leagues you can join when you are good enough, or when you can join. But if you just want to have fun, you could jump on R-Factor. I wouldn't recommend it though. It has really hard menu systems, really hard to get into, really hard modding, really hard online system, all that jazz. I would recommend staying away from R-Factor if you are a beginner. If there is one little point that we need to draw out of all of this, it is that if you're a beginner, I would recommend you to start off easy. Even if you aren't, I would recommend you to do the research on the game you want to buy, look up whether it's something you actually want, watch videos on it, stuff like that, and check the price out, ask your friends, ask, is this a game that's nice, is this a game that I might want to buy? And at the end of the day, if you don't think it's that fun, you try that, and you know that, and you will know that for always, and you can tell it onwards. And I would recommend you to start easy, start off as easy as you can with whatever you want to, and then I hope you enjoy. In the next episode of Beginner's Guide to Sim Racing, we'll be talking about how to drive a race car, the mentality you want going into driving a race car, going into doing racing games, and how you should drive and behave on that. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I made your day just a little bit better. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.